Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 7. New studio, back in Australia, with a fucking unreal guest to break it in with. You don't need much of an introduction. He has his own podcast, killing it on the social media. Anyone who scrolls through Reels, I know for a fact you've definitely scrolled upon one of his. I'm so stoked to have you here, man. I appreciate. So, Chris Griffin, welcome to the pod.
Appreciate you coming. You invited me on, man.
Oi!
It's always the same.
Nice.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love that because, like I just said, he has his own podcast, which I'm going to link podcasts, socials down in the description. But I'm very interested and curious today to see what it's going to be like for you to be the guest because you're a fucking great host. The questions you ask are really enticing and intriguing too. So yeah, I'm excited for you to be able to share more of your story and it be less of you interviewing someone.
I'm looking forward to it.
Fuck yeah. Everyone who is a regular listener, you know I do 10 rapid fire questions. So we're going to start today. Try and keep your answers as simple as possible. If you need a bit of time to think about it, go for it. Number 1, would you rather speak to your younger self or your future self?
Younger self.
Number 2, which famous person, dead or alive, would you like to meet?
Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Let's not like that. Number 3, never communicate with humans again or never feel excited to do any form of work.
Never feel excited to do any form of work. Work's subjective. I'll leave it at that.
Number 4, gain one, lose one, keep one. Money, impact on humans, and health.
Gain one, keep one, lose one.
Yeah.
Gain impact, keep health.
Lose money.
Lose money.
Number 5, describe yourself in one word.
Curious.
Number 6, what's your favorite human emotion to feel?
Joy.
Number 7, yes or no, do you love who you are?
Yeah. Yes.
Number 8, who is your inspiration, if any?
Different fields, but I would say Matthew McConaughey again.
I'm going to ask you about that
I'm
after
going to say Matthew McConaughey and my past self.
Oh, love that. Love that.
And past lovers.
Number 9, if you could have a dopamine dump after doing any task or work, what would you choose it to be?
This is so interesting. I would have to put more thought into it, but one that comes to mind in this current phase of life is pressing post on a brand deal. Hate that so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 10, what would you try if you knew you couldn't fail?
This is a really good question.
I appreciate it.
Dude, I'm not sure, man. I've reduced the amount of worry about what people think. And I think when you do that, you don't get scared about trying things. I'm gonna have to pass.
I rate that.
One.
Does that pass come from the fact that you're not scared to fail doing something?
I'm not scared.
Yeah.
And that only comes down to it's like you're relative to what you've experienced in the past. If you fail enough times and you realize you make it out the other side every time, what's there to be scared about?
So simply said, but I know the experience to be able to say that sentence is so fucking complex and it would be so uncommonly understood. So many people wouldn't relate to what you just said, but being someone of that myself with my past and my experiences, I completely get that. Number 11, who is Chris Griffin? Long-winded answer.
Chris Griffin is someone that is really curious and he loves to educate people. I think if people look in my Instagram bio, it says a curious educator. No one really would understand what that means. It's a bit confusing. But the thing is for me is I really don't like boxing myself in as a particular thing. And I think, when people label themselves as something, when that thing falls out for some circumstance that they couldn't have planned for, they go into lulls because that's what their life was. I think if I can keep it really broad, if something changes, I'm still learning who I am as a person. I can still have those underlying things of being really curious and loving to educate. And if it fits in those pillars, I find I get the most joy and fulfillment out of doing those things. But I guess for me, like, who I really am trying to be is that beacon of light to people that maybe don't see light at the end of the tunnel. And that might be in the business pursuit that they're trying to do. Maybe they're in a heartbreak. Maybe they're overweight. Maybe they just don't really like what they're doing because they're not living life for them. They're living life for someone else. I want to just give them that little spark, I just want to open their peripherals a little bit more to what else is possible, with the hopes to let them take that first step on their journey. And me being able to be that beacon of light for people in those phases would be probably the best way for me to describe who I am or who I want to be.
Where and why? Because I have often experienced special people come from something. Those who want to be leaders or educators or assisters along that dynamic of helping other people see what they see or they experience. Like, where does that come from? Did you experience something deep in your past, or is it just naturally who you are as a person?
When you deep dive into your past and you unlock third level whys of you as a child, you actually figure out that it is from your past still, like it's from little Chris. Call him loved fishing Chris. And, he would go out fishing and he would learn something new, and then he would come back and he would tell his dad to go and let's go out in the boat and fish. And then I would teach my dad this new thing that I learned, how to hook the bait the right way, right? That might not seem like a big deal, but why would someone at 5 or 6 years old want to do that and learn this thing, get really curious and go and learn from someone great at fishing on how to hook some bait, get really excited? And when dad comes back and goes, and when I get back from the water and dad goes, did you catch any fish? I go, no, but I learnt this thing. And I remember vividly doing that as a kid. Like, yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but I think the fundamental thing on what I'm doing there is still the same to now. But I think the thing that changed it all for me was when I was in grade 12 at school and I had to take this leap because I was lost. I was not sure what I wanted to do, and I had all this pressure around me. I like, are you going to go to uni or you become a tradie? Like, they're the only options. And I knew I didn't want to do either. And then I got exposed to someone doing some business and it opened my mind and I just went, holy shit. But that year I just went all in and all my focus and motivation swapped. But then what happened with that was everyone started hating on me, calling me the Mr. Businessman. And they really, they didn't like believe in me at all. But then fast forward 12 months, I had moved to Sydney where I was in lockdown with my best friend. We had just raised money for a tech company we were starting at a valuation of $800,000. And all of a sudden, these people that all went to uni, my friends at school, had all dropped out by one. And I just thought, that was the hardest 12 months of my life because no one believed me. No one would answer my calls. No one would hang out with me. Literally no one. My girlfriend had broken up with me. I had no one in my corner. My parents didn't believe in me because I had nothing for me. And they were getting calls from my teachers at school. And then now all the friends are going back asking for some advice. And as cliche as that sounds, it's literally what happened. I was like, there's something wrong with the system. And for the person that my best friend Sam, who exposed me to what I'm doing now, like back then, I want to be that person. And so it started with helping that. And the page was called Primed University. And I posted 100 videos under that before I rebranded it to more Chris Griffin. And it was just teaching fundamental skills on how to learn fundamental things that you can use in everything in your life, not just learning about Macbeth or something that you would have done in English class. And it just had this desire to help. And then one thing led to another. I lived a bit more and experienced a bit more and shared more relevant lessons towards me. And then people seemed to enjoy them. And I just kept going at that with that emphasis, being curious, learning more, getting excited about learning those lessons so then I can educate them to the other people.
The curiosity factor I can understand completely. But what I'm interested in from everything you just said, because you have so much ability to be a pessimist from what you experienced, doing something different, especially in some Australian cultures, tall poppy syndrome is so intense. When you're doing something better than other people, you kind of highlight their shadows. Or if you're doing things that people didn't think to be possible, they're going to hate you because they're not doing it themselves. So curiosity I get, but why an educator? Like why the care for the people? Why care to help people or show people or assist people?
Well, you would probably feel the same with some of the stuff that you've potentially been through. I mean, I don't know your story, but when you make it out the other side, and this is where most coaches are formed, is they've overcome something and they go, fuck, I went from A to B and I've just realized that there's thousands of people in A and I would love to teach them on how I got to B. I've become useful. And I think that's all it is you, when you build up a level of empowerment in yourself because you've overcame some adversity, some challenge, you go, holy shit, I'm actually not alone in that dark tunnel that I didn't see light out of. I'm not the only one there. But what happened was I somehow got to this light. And there's so many other people and I feel for them because I know how you feel in that moment. It sucks. It's hard. I want to help you bridge that gap as well. And I want to help you get out of that tunnel. And I think it just stems from that. And then what happens, and I mean, we can dive into this as well at some point in the conversation, but when you feel the feeling you get when you make an impact, it's like the most addictive feeling ever. Like impact is literally the new drug. And like, I wish that everyone could feel how I feel when I can see the impact that I've made on someone's eyes. If you could put that into a pill and package that thing up, the cocaine business would go out of business. No other drug would be consumed because it's way better than every other drug. Not that I've tried all the drugs in the world, but I know the feeling and how euphoric it is. And I have no hangover from it. And like, I just know that if you could package that up, it would be the most viral drug in the world. And I get to do that. So the more I help, the more I feel that. And it's just this inspiration snowball that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so I think it started from one little thing and desire to help, but it's quickly become my biggest driver, making that impact.
The hangover from that experience almost could be classified as the hate that you get in return, because equal portions of how many people you help, I'm sure from your experience, you experience an equal or a certain amount of hate back. Everything you just explained as to why you're a curious educator comes from a humble internal feeling. You started at A and you helped yourself get to B. So you became useful, you got through something tricky. What's the experience like knowing that it's a humble feeling as to why you're doing it, but to be labeled, not that you're labeled, but anyone doing anything or making an impact is labeled or could be labeled as egotistical or arrogant? How does it feel if you ever read those comments of egotistical or arrogant, or you think you're better than people when internally you're only doing it to help other people?
To be honest, my comments are so positive. I get so excited when I see some hate because it gets me excited because I truly believe that if you agree with everything that someone says, it's a bit robotic. They're not really a real human. I think you need to have some polarity in your message. Like you can't, like, I think to stand the test of time, you need to have some sort of polarity. People can't just love everything that you say. So I get excited when I get a couple of hate messages because I go, okay, I'm being authentic to me. I'm not complying to what everyone actually wants to do.
Yeah.
But I want to take it back a little bit to, you just said something there about the hangover might be the hate. I said that there's no hangover, but I would argue that there is a hangover because with every high, there's a low. And it's a pendulum swing with everything. So the more euphoric the feelings I have in terms of the impact I can make, potentially when I'm not making the impact as much, my feelings are lower than neutral because I've had the high. So potentially maybe what it does do is it puts a little bit of a fire up your ass to keep on growing and maybe chase that progression, because if the feeling you get from making an impact is really high and that drops off, you're maybe not being able to get that comparison, that same feeling again. But I think when it comes to impact, and I know this is steering off a little bit from your question, but something happened and I'll share it on this podcast is really relevant. I wouldn't share this on my short form as much because I just think it's more of a thing for me to really embody and feel. But like impact doesn't need to be number of people impact. It's like the amount of impact. Like if you do one-on-one coaching and you can properly change someone's life, that's quite an insane feeling. Or if I can get 100 DMs of paragraphs, that's a really equal feeling, if not maybe similar, right? But there was a message in my DMs a few days ago of this girl that had missed the run club a couple of weeks in a row. She's from Germany, and she like said it would mean the world to be able to see me in person. I don't meet with people in my DMs. And then she followed up again, and she was like, told me a bit about her story, how like I've saved her life, and she went serious, right? And she said, I've wrote a card. At the very least, can I drop it off at your place before you go? She knew I was leaving because she follows my stories. And I said, like, where's your hostel? Because she was staying at a hostel. And she sent me the address of the hostel, and it was 500 meters away from my house. And I just said, can you meet me down in my lobby in 10 minutes? And I was like, I'd love to meet you and I'd love to read your card. And she's like, yeah. And so she comes, I see her, anyway, give her a big hug. She's in shock, in disbelief that I'm even in person, which is just weird. I messaged her before she came. I said, look, I'm just a human. Like, I know you're going to be nervous, but it's okay. And I gave her this big hug, asked her to tell me about her story. She's like, yeah, I was suicidal. I came across your video. You were my comfort person, and you were the reason I'm probably still here. I don't know if I'd still be here. And I'm just freezing up, and she gives me this card. I go upstairs, I read it, and it's all about her story and all the challenge she's been through. And I just go like, that's one person. I've made an impact. Like quite literally, she's on this earth, like because of this something that my words did to her. And I just go, all the hate, I do not give a fuck about. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, but I don't care.
You can do whatever.
I don't care about any hate, because like what Sophie has felt in that experience and the impact that I've been blessed to be able to make to her is the most euphoric thing. I sat there and I was shaking looking at this card, and I just start questioning everything that matters. Like what actually matters in life. If I can just keep doing that, the money will come. If you can make someone feel that way, the money will come. And so if I just focus on that and hone in on that, then everything else will flow off the back of that. But you asked me how I deal with the ego, with the hate. I'm blessed that I don't see too much hate. I would say it's more of like the inner talk. That's probably more so of a critic than the hate. It's more of my words to myself and the way I treat myself than how other people treat me, I would say.
Have you become aware or conscious of the paradoxing idea that helping people on a mass scale can be more selfish than selfless? Have you ever thought of that or stressed in the idea that if you help people because it makes you feel good, are you helping people for people or are you helping people for yourself? And the only reason I say that, and I'm sure I could answer for you because I do one-to-one coaching, I know why I do it, but it is an interesting contrast of we're not going to do anything long-term if it doesn't make us feel good. So yeah, have you thought of that idea?
I've never thought of that idea, but I would say that the decision to help people at mass was a decision. Like if they didn't feel good from the impact I made on them, I wouldn't feel good either, right? It has to go both ways. And so for me, I thought like I was in my head that making videos wasn't going to make, because I did a lot of one-on-one coaching late last year and had a lot of clients all around the world, and I dropped it because of how taxing it was on me. If I spent 3 hours doing 3 1-hour calls in the middle of the day, my rest of my day was wrecked because I'm hearing all their problems, I'm dealing with all their shit. And if I get a card from Sophie, or I get a big message, or I run into someone on the street and they freeze up, all from just my videos online, I'm like, okay, I'm making enough impact. They're the people that have messaged me, reached out to me. Like all this, Sophie has been following me for 18 months and she only messaged me 2 weeks ago. I saved her life. I don't know, like I'm not saying I'm the thing that saved her. Maybe I just helped spark that little bit of light in her. But that was 18 months ago. Think about all the people around the world after having 500 million views that have felt the same way, but have just not messaged Sophie yet, like Sophie did to me 2 weeks ago. And so I look at it and go, like, it's selfish doing one-on-one because it strips away all of the energy I have to create the content, which then helps millions of people. And that was my frame when I was doing one-on-one, feeling so drained, not being able to do anything else. I had 20 clients. It's like I couldn't, maybe that was too much, admittedly, but I couldn't do anything else. And I thought, like, the thing that got me here in the first place was doing this global stuff. Maybe that's why the podcast is something that fulfills me so much too, because it's true impact at that long form where people get to listen to in a long form and get that closer connection with you.
I understand that completely. One thing that I thought of when you were speaking then, and this is a little bit left of field for some of the things I'm curious to ask you about, was one-to-one coaching so taxing? So one thing I always notice with coaches is the more ownership they take over their clients' wins, the heavier they feel on their clients' losses. And I used to be like that. This person is achieving this because of me. This person is doing this because of me, or they achieved this under me. So then when they dump their problems, I would be weighed down by, oh, fuck, they're struggling. You know, what's my role in that and what's my part in that? Was that your experience? Is that why it was so heavy, or was it just very intense based
Well, you're
conversations?
just listening to all of their problems. I was doing purpose and inspiration style stuff where I was helping them find purpose and meaning in their life. And I was taking them through all these tools that I'd built out. And, you know, like it's just quite a full on thing for them to go through as well. Like they're, you know, unpacking really hard questions. And that was a big part of it, was asking the right questions. And I just found that it was awesome to feel their stuff, but like for me it was quite taxing. Like I don't have a degree in psychology or anything like this to be able to deal with hearing their problems, like their abuse or different things that they have been through. And for me, I just thought, I looked at my options and I thought, like, I understand if I had a small following, it would be smart doing this, but because of the money, like money per person I have that knows me, it makes sense. But for me, I just thought, like, I need to, like, the one who's going to win is the one that plays the game longer, and I'm not going to be able to play that game very long because I was very drained. And so look, I didn't unpack the main reason as to why, but I just thought there was better mediums. And I took a pay cut for sure. And I think it was just that delayed gratification because I was playing the long game. The work I was doing 6 months ago was to be rewarded what I'm feeling right now and vice versa, right? And so I didn't want to get 6 months down the line and go, I took all of this for a short-term money grab and that sacrifice what I actually truly want to do.
So my branding in the podcast is called Future Self. It is fundamentally about delayed gratification. It's that idea of doing something today or making more choices now to assist or impact your future self. Delayed gratification, for people who get it, get it. For people who don't, they don't. Why are you a person that trusted or understood delayed gratification was going to pay bigger returns in the future?
Well, things that are worthwhile are hard to get. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that things that actually have meaning are hard to get. That's why they have meaning. And for you to get something that is hard, typically that takes time, and it takes not getting results until you get the results, right? And so if you don't buy into the delayed gratification, you will drop off. So, like, do you want something valuable? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, that's going to take time, something unique. It's going to take some sort of expertise. And to garner the responsibility, to be able to earn that or to develop the skill sets required to earn that, it requires a bit of grit, a bit of determination, a bit of work ethic, a bit of time. And so if I'm going, no, I don't want delayed gratification, then it's like, okay, well, I just want a mediocre life and I don't really buy into the mediocrity. Like, there's nobility in all of the things that they do teach you, like having a family, having a home, having a safe income, having kids. Amazing. But I think in terms of overarching, like, what are you chasing? What is the life that you actually want to live? What, like, the legacy that you actually are leaving behind? What is that going to take to have something worthwhile in that aspect, in that regard? And I think that's, yeah, definitely you're required to delay that gratification in order to achieve something like that.
What's the legacy wanting to be left of Chris Griffin?
I want something that stands the test of time. I want the impact to leave a footprint on my current generation, my children's generation, and beyond. And I think with that is being unique. And so for me, when you look at being a curious educator, is my biggest pet peeve is when people just regurgitate everything from other people and they haven't thought of their own unique ideas and ideologies. And so for me is to be out, if I can be curious and be very self-reflective, and most of my lessons come from my past self and my past lovers. And so if I can learn from them and then think and like ponder on those lessons a lot, come up with my own ideologies about those things and articulate them in a unique way, I think that's going to make people attracted to me. And I think the bigger I can grow and the bigger of an impact I can make on people in the sense of like sparking that, like your life can change if you let it and live life for you, and have this consistency in that message for people and help people take that first step. I think that's something that I think they're fundamental skill sets. And so those things will stand the test of time. It's not like buy this coin and this is my expertise and you're going to make $1 million from doing that. No, the things that I'm teaching, I would hope that you'd be able to still drill these into people coming up in centuries, like time. And so for me, it's like being able to teach people these fundamental things that it's going to make them a really powerful character, like a video game character that beats everyone else.
What's the most fundamental in life for you? If you could teach people one thing and only one thing, what do you feel is the most important, or what's your most important passionate lesson that you teach?
Passion, like excitement about what you're doing. Like when you're sitting with someone and you ask them how their day is and they go, it's all right. Like how inspiring is that? Not inspiring at all. Whereas if you see someone's eyes lighting up, even if it's about fucking ponytails, I don't care. Like, and this is the thing about when it comes to relationships too, is like a massive thing for me is you've got to have passion with what you're doing. You don't have to work unless you want to work. So when we're at the dinner table and you're telling me, and I ask you how your day was, babe, and you go, oh, it was all right. Like I hate my job or whatever. I'm like, well, fucking leave the job. Whereas if you say, oh my God, like today was great. So what I did was, and you have this excitement about you, this passion about life. That's what I think is something that is an awesome universal skill that you can't say too many bad things about. But here's the next thing is, how do you get passion?
Stole my next question.
Yeah. Like how do you get passion? And you need to know what you want. Like you need to know what springs you out of bed in the morning. So you need to find what that purpose and meaning is. Like what are the nuggets of gold in your life that just get you excited? And then if you can focus all the things that you're doing around those things, it's a lot easier to be passionate about those things. And I think if you can be passionate and then you can articulate your message so you can be a master communicator, you'll get very far in life. Because if you can articulate your message and you're passionate about something, it means you'll have conviction in that message. People will be bought into your vision and your mission and your purpose. And then people want to come along on that journey. So I think, yeah, being able to talk and be very self-aware and understand people. So being able to read the room and then have passion would be the things I would intro to people.
So let's say I'm a passionless young adult, dopamine receptors fried from scrolling, staying in my room, blinds down. I don't do much exercise. I don't eat much food, and what I do is shit, a lot of packet-based things. How or what advice would you give me to ignite passion?
Go through some shit. Like, try some stuff. I think if you're in that situation, you don't actually have any dependencies, probably. From the brief you've just explained, you don't have a family and kids and all of this stuff. So you've got nothing to lose. I guarantee that probably 99% of the people that are in that criteria, if they went and gave something a go and all shit hits the fan, someone could hand them a lend of something, or a bed to sleep on, or a couch to sleep on, or a blow up mattress. So you've quite literally got nothing to lose. And so trying something would be my advice, because how do you know what you're passionate about if you don't do anything? And more importantly, how do you know what you don't like if you don't do anything as well? Like, figuring out the don't likes is almost more important than the do likes, because you're always going to keep refining what you like. But at least if you know what you don't like, you can kind of stay clear from those things. And then just like, I think trialing things and having this like taking a few more risks, you start to sharpen that sword. And then that's when you realize what you don't and not like, what you do like and you don't like. So then you can sharpen that sword and only focus on those things that you do like. So then when you're speaking with someone and they ask you how your day is, you're fucking lighting up and you're excited and there's passion. Passion's not a thing that you can just click your fingers and earn. It's the same as so many things in life. Like there's a price tag to every character trait that you want to obtain, for the most part. And it's just like, what is that price tag? Figure out a way to pay it. Or don't have the character. You choose. And I think through character, when you gain character, it's the most valuable thing you can obtain is character. It's the only thing we have, really.
So you said go through some shit. Do you think, and I know you weren't speaking to this intensity, I understood what you were saying, but my curiosity of, do you think trauma is a progressor or a regressor to someone's character?
Are you a hero or a villain?
Love that.
I guess it can be both. You choose though. And that's the greatest part. Like, you get to choose if it helps you or not. Because like, the sooner you realize that no one's coming to save you, and you can look at the cards that you've been dealt and say, oh, this is a shit deck, I'm not even going to play. Or you can go, I'm still going to try and win. I still have a chance. And I think like trauma, I'm blessed that, look, there's probably traumas. I was speaking with some people, and look, there probably is little traumas in my life that I've not like fully dissolved yet. But like, I don't have very hectic events. Well, in saying that, potentially I do, but like for me, I have not let them control me at all. I think, what value does it have thinking that that's going to ruin your life? Because if you think that, it will. And so, but honestly, like I'm really resonating a lot with the Stoic approach and Ryan Holiday's approach of the obstacle is the way. Like, the hard time is the only way. Because, it's a common saying, but like, with no sad, there's no happy. And the only way to feel the most highest of highs is you need to go through the lows. And so when you can reframe your mind when you're in a low, that this is a cost to the highs, you can bear the lows a lot easier.
Your ability to feel the depth of a low is your equal portion to feel the height of a high. And I've worked with society claims it as a recovering alcoholic. I visualize this individual as someone who used to have a struggle with alcohol and is evolving to be a different person. That's my approach to their journey, and they're doing really well with it. But as they stopped drinking, their numbness stopped, and they started expressing, oh, I'm feeling, low and flat and tired and drained. but I'm also feeling happy and, elevated and excited. And I've learned that how deep you can feel is also the height you can feel. You can't feel that high, happy sunshine all the time. And there's those typical quotes of there's no sun without rain and all of those things that people say. But yeah, I think there's an equal portion of how far and how shit you can feel is also the direct portion of how high and how good you can feel. And this is a little bit off topic, and fuck, I've been struggling about not making it my identity because I do a podcast maybe one or two every fortnight. So the conversations are far in between. But my father passed away when I was a young kid. And this stems back in with the question I was asking before, is trauma a progress or a regressor? And initially I was like a kid growing up without a father, that I'm at a disadvantage and I can't do these things. But it's been one of my biggest progresses in life to think at a depth that a lot of people don't. To be able to explore, to be curious, to back myself, to be my own best friend, my own critic, and support myself in the way that I did growing up. It's a weird thing, but I have connected a lot of successful people, unfortunately, are the ones who have gone through the most shit. And that ties back in or have experienced a wide range of experiences. And that for me ties back in with the depth of dark you can feel is the height of happy you can feel.
Yeah, but it also gives like, are you being pulled or like it also gives you this like more of a reason to get out of it as well. And you said it was a disadvantage is what you used to think it was. It is a disadvantage not having a dad. It's absolutely a disadvantage. Doesn't mean you still can't win. Like, it's coming back down to that cards thing. It's like choose how you want to deal, like handle your cards you've been dealt. You literally get the option, and you can choose to handle them however you want. And if you take ownership as opposed to just put it on everyone, and you say, no, it was my fault. I lost my dad. It was, oh well, it's on me. Like I should have been there for him more. I don't know. Like it's a hectic thing to think, but there's no benefit on putting it on anyone else. The only way we seek, I've been speaking about this concept a lot recently because I've been just resonating with it quite a lot. But when you win, you don't look for the failures in that victory because there's a trophy. So you don't look for the fuck ups. But the likelihood of there being some mistakes on that journey to winning is still quite high. But when you fail, you're forced to look within and go, where did I go wrong? And so the great thing about failure, the reason you learn from failure rather than learning from victory is because you actually look at where you went wrong. You still went wrong with both scenarios. You just don't look within because it's masked with a trophy. And the great thing about going through hard times is if you choose to grow from them, you most certainly can. And you can still grow from victories, but it's a lot harder to because you're like, oh, well, I've already won. If it's not broken, let's not fix it. But yeah, go through the shit, look within and find a lesson in it and grow.
Extreme ownership is one of the biggest dynamics that I advocate. And it is something that I copped a little bit of slack for. And I said it a while back that you are entirely responsible for your life moving forwards. And no one likes to hear that because no one wants to be responsible for where they're at and where they're going. It's easy to finger point and it's easy to blame. Teaching ownership is one of the trickiest things I do, but it changes someone's life more than fucking anything. Because even in situations that you're not at fault at, there's still ownership you can take from that. And I always have it as my backing teaching aspect that, yeah, it might not be your fault something happened, but if you don't find ownership in that situation, there's no growth, change, or difference that comes from it. If someone fucks you over, it's the friend's fault because they fucked you over. But what ownership can you take from that? Did you share too much? Did you dump on them too much? Did you not show up? It's not your fault as a person, but unless you take ownership, nothing happens, nothing changes.
Well, what's hard about taking ownership, do you think?
Well, from my experience of what I've seen with people, no one wants to be the reason their life fucking sucks.
Well, yes. But what requires with taking ownership is work. And so this is going to be perfect to tie it back into this delayed gratification concept is when you take ownership, you then look at the things that you need to do to get better and you go, holy shit, that's a lot of shit to do. And when you go through all that shit and you do all the shit, at the end of it, you get a little dopamine hit. But you had to go through all this shit to get the dopamine hit of the victory. Whereas if you put it on someone else, you get a dopamine hit instantly. So you get the same feeling here without doing any of the work, but you just don't progress, and the hit's more fleeting. But you're still getting the dopamine hit. So taking ownership requires delayed gratification, because you've just taken ownership and you've gone, holy shit, I've got a whole lot of stuff to do without seeing any results until I can start to feel one little bit of a high. And that's scary. So they go, I can just put it on someone else and I'll get a hit now, and then I can get on with my day and move on. And so ultimately, there's responsibility that's associated with ownership, and people aren't willing to bear that responsibility. But the only way you can get mature in any field is by bearing the responsibility. And so you don't do that, you don't grow. And if anything, you go backwards because you get one day older, but not one step closer.
I love that complexity on the idea that work is unavoidable regardless. So eating clean is work. But if you don't eat clean, the repercussions health-wise in the future are going to force you into some form of work as a repercussion. And it is very interesting because from my experience, people look at other individuals and think, oh, I can't work that hard. They do too much. They get up too early. They push themselves too much. And the idea I have in my head is, bro, your fucking working shift is coming up. Might not be for another 10 years or another 20 years, but when you can't walk and you're in a walking frame, or you have no finances so you can't retire, your shift will come up. Someone's just choosing to work their shift now.
I would argue that eating clean is not work, because everything is relative to what you've experienced in the past. I would say that eating clean is different to most. It's different for most people. Whereas if you eat clean and you've been doing it, I would prefer to eat a steak than a burger, because I've just done it every day. It's like it's turned into routine. It's like when you speak to Alfie and you go, if the cameras are off, would you still eat clean? Yes, he would. And it's because like that's actually what he enjoys. The only problem is something that's different is scary and harder to do. And so like this is this whole thing around like just taking that next step, and one step will lead to the other. And if there's 15 steps to get to where you truly want to be, if you just look at taking one instead of getting daunted by looking at the 15, you can slowly start getting closer to there, to the point where it's a win-win, because you're not going to have to pay your shift later on, and you love the journey of eating clean, and you would prefer to do that over everything else. I booked an Airbnb instead of a hotel in Bondi. I'm going there after this because there's a stove in it, because I would prefer to eat beef mince, avocado, eggs, and grilled banana than go and eat breakfast out while I'm here for a few days. It's not to save money. It's because I prefer the food. So when that's your preference, all of a sudden it becomes pretty easy to eat clean, in which would be work for some people.
It's so interesting. I spent the first 4.5 months of this year traveling Europe, and I think my trip cost a few 10,000 more because of the idea of exactly that. Booking places with a kitchen or a kitchenette, paying one-off gym memberships, and buying European fucking protein powder. I adore that idea of, yeah, what you just said, it's not work, it's what you prefer. But you also said that it's what he enjoys. So let's not talk about him. Let's just talk about the idea of sometimes it's fine, I think personally, not to enjoy something at face value, but you enjoy the result it gives you. So you might not exactly, the eating clean was an example as well of something I gave.
Yeah.
Wasn't that specifically?
Oh yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But you might not enjoy eating clean, but you might enjoy how it makes you feel. So when I train fucking super hard, I enjoy the idea of coming home and putting fuel in my body that my body's going to soak up and enjoy and build and repair. I don't always necessarily enjoy the food. Like I like it and it's fine, But yeah, I think enjoyment, just so people don't take away that idea of, oh, well, I don't enjoy eating clean, I'm not going to eat clean. Yeah, you can enjoy what it does for you as a byproduct.
Yeah, and I think when we look at where does enjoyment come from, and it's the gap between expectation and reality. And so if you have expectation that something's going to taste like chocolate and you eat it and it doesn't because it's beef mince, you're going to be disappointed and you're not going to enjoy eating that thing. And so to enjoy something, the best way to enjoy something is to remove all expectation from what you're expecting from the thing as well. And so, like, I guess that's something you can apply to everything in your life, is like that gap between expectation and reality is disappointment. So if you have no expectation, there'll be no gap. You're more inclined to enjoy the things. But yeah, I mean, look, like the gym stuff as well. It's like I actually don't enjoy training in the gym at all. I hate it. But it's when I get out of the gym and the feeling I have and the way I look and feel physically and mentally from going to the gym or in the ice bath. I hate being in the ice bath, but it's when I get out that makes me feel really good. And it's the reason why you do it. It's like, I don't really enjoy the pursuit of making money. I used to a lot, but after impact kind of trumped that feeling for me, the pursuit of making money isn't my favorite thing to do. But the lifestyle that the money unlocks is a feeling and a life that I love. So I'm willing to bear that cost. I think it's just a matter of what cost are you willing to endure in life with everything that you're doing, and choose it wisely.
I'm going to be selfish for a moment because this is purely of my own curiosity. Let's talk about the cost of the lonely chapter. And this is something you wrote last night that you posted. So for everyone listening a few weeks back now, as you increasingly become more unique with the way you think and live, the less you can relate to others, which ultimately results in an increased level of loneliness. Explain it.
When you're truly driven by your path and your soul-led version of you, so soul-led version of Guy or soul-led version of Chris, you become more unique because you say yes to things that you want to do and only you want to do, and you say no to things that others want you to do but you don't want to do. And so with that, you progress in that field, you become so unique because you don't do things that other people do. You're not inspired by things that other people do. And you're selfish in a sense that you kind of want to do the things that you want to do that truly make you tick. So the pool of people available that fit the criteria that make you inspired reduces the more you progress in that path, which results in a lack of connection or loneliness. And so for me, it's this realization of the more I progress in a field, and potentially I can maybe there's a gap, which is referring to that lonely chapter of, but when you're away from your old friends, but you're not yet at the level of your new friends, potentially I'm in that gap, and struggle to relate to people, which means I struggle to have that connection with certain people. Don't get me wrong, I still have connection, but like truly, for the most part, like I struggle to fully be connected. There's only very handful of people in my life that I am. Is that a bad thing? I don't know, but it's certainly like there's a lot more solitude in that, because when you can relate to more people when you're alone, you're more inclined to speak with them, hang out with them. But when you would rather be alone than hang out with people that aren't really filling your cup, you end up a bit more lonely.
I used to feel like I was in that lonely chapter, sourcing to come out the other side. And what I found is the other side isn't a set of human being, it's a type of human being. And that type of human being aligns to curiosity, evolution, and growth. Because I always thought this idea of I leave the party scene, I'll get away from those friends. I'm in the lonely chapter of finding myself, I'll find these friends. But I'm a forever interested individual of growth, development, and bettering myself. So then the idea would be, well, I could be in this chapter for a long ass time or almost indefinitely, because if I'm forever evolving, when I find new people, I might evolve and grow on from those people. So I learned that, yeah, the other side is actually finding a type of human being I connect with, which is naturally curious or naturally interested or wanting the same level of growth and development themselves.
Values aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got to be values aligned, because then the underlying, and that's the same with relationships, right? It's the most important thing is like, are your values aligned? Because your life is going to change. That's a fact. The things you're interested in probably are going to change, but are your values aligned, which don't all the time change, right? Like what your underlying values are. Like if you're progressive and you like to progress, and you're really like you're goals oriented, like it's going to take a pretty catastrophic event to happen for you to maybe change that outlook on life. And so I think, yeah, forming relationships, platonic and romantic, off the back of values is extremely important in terms of longevity with them. But it's a forever battle, dude. Like the friends one's an interesting one. It's like, especially when you're so honed in with what you're trying to do, you kind of don't really, I don't know, you just hold your time highly, and like you kind of want them to feel like you want them to be a treadmill friend, not a couch friend. And like you want them to make you feel inspired and recharge you, as opposed to mentally drain you. And I think coming back to that thing, when you really keep sharpening your own sword and you become more unique, it's harder to relate, which then makes it, yeah. It's a battle. I haven't figured it out. I'm still learning it.
I said this too when we were talking before the episode. I'm still very much learning it myself. But one thing that I have learnt that's helped me is what I expressed to you, is not feeling special around people. In a weird way, when I don't feel special around someone, it's because I feel understood or connected. And living in Indonesia, I almost felt special around fucking no one. Like in Wollongong, I felt so special. I think different, I do different, I push harder, I work more, I reach more people, I elevate more than anyone. I was like, I connected with no one. I felt special. Not special as in I'm better and great. But then, yeah, when I love my radar that I've slowly started to learn that when I don't feel special around people, it's actually the most special feeling ever. Because it's like, yeah, you're that type of person that gets it. You're that type of person I resonate with. You're that type of person that is on a similar pathway and similar journey. Like, dude, we're the same age. You're 1 year younger than me. And instantly I was like, another young male from Australia wanting to have a big podcast. It's the same as me. Is curious, is caring, wants to help people. Like, I always got really stuck on that feeling of I'm just better off doing it on my own. And I think that was purely just laziness, that the people that you aligned and connect with are out there. It's just up to you to find them, because you're not going to find who you want to be around or be with romantically or relate with in your hometown. So something that I thought was interesting, because it's been my whole experience this year. You've moved around quite a bit. Sydney, Melbourne, and going back to Queensland. Do you feel like there's an importance with leaving your hometown or moving to different places?
Yeah, I'd say it's just depending on your hometown, but for the majority of people, absolutely, because like I think there's most towns, to be honest, if you're in Australia entirely, there is that tall poppy syndrome, and there is that, like, people don't want you doing better than them, and that's just the harsh reality of it. And I think what happens is people let their emotions get in the way with what they actually want. So they think, oh, I've been friends with this person for 10 years. I've got to keep them in my life. Oh, this is my mum or my dad or my sister. It's family. I've got to keep them in my life. And you kind of go, well, no, you can still love them, but you don't need to speak to them every week. If they're negative in your life, I don't care if you've known them for 1 day or you've known them for 2 centuries, get them out of your life, because I truly believe that you are the people that you hang around. There's all the different ways of saying it, but like my favorite one is, if you're in a room with 5 wankers, you're the sixth. And that's just the reality. I don't care if it's family, friends, if they are not aligned and it's negative, that's probably the main one. You need to get out. Like, You just need to get out. And also, this is probably the most powerful message that I use for myself. All of the shit times, all of the hard times you are going through, if it's right now and you're going through the most shittiest time ever, however hectic it may be, as brutal as this may sound, fucking good. As Jocko Willink says, he says, good. You're going through some shit? Awesome. That's great. What benefit does it have thinking about it and dealing with it any other way? Because I think ultimately in life, the most valuable thing we can obtain is character. The most valuable thing we can obtain is character, in my opinion. The only way to gain character is through the pain. The obstacle is the way. So understanding that, so when you're in the shit, you can be reminded, good, this is a good thing. And reframing the bad to be a good thing is so powerful, because that is what it is if you let it. Every single hard time that you've overcame, you look back and go, I'm grateful for that happened. Most of the time you wouldn't take back and go back to your life, because if you've actually made it out the other side, you've probably developed a part of you that's new, and you're proud of that part that you've developed. So you look in the mirror and there's some pride of the person that you see. And I think if you're proud of where you are, you can't have any regret. And so, I think people need to realize that the hard time is a good thing.
Stack your resume.
Yeah.
It's one of my most favorite things. That idea of, I think personally, you're only as good as the equal portion to the shit you've overcome. And I don't say good as in quality of person. I mean resilience and ability to move forwards. And this, I think it's just one of those laws of life, or those rules that ties back in with the emotions I was saying a while back. The depth also is the height. The shit is also the good. The rate of bad you can go through, or the rate of challenge you can go through, is equal portions of how far you can move forwards and how far, you can continue. Be, do, have. What is it?
Dude, the people love that message, man. Every time I talk about it, it goes viral. What's really crazy is I learned that from Jim Fortin, and he was the single most influential person he changed my life. As hectic as that sounds, is I would just from his podcast, I would listen to his podcast every single morning driving to school, and I just remember how quickly my life would change in terms of my outlook on life, my view on he changed. And admittedly, there was a lot of other things that I was doing. It was when I was going all in on business and self-improvement. But I literally went from this extreme scarce mindset to an extreme abundance mindset, probably too extreme on the abundance side, but I'm grateful for it. But he taught me all of this. But be to have is just more so being the person that you want to become and doing the things that person does. And then by doing so, you'll have the life you want to live. It's just trying to put yourself in your future self's shoes and where you want to be, and acting like that person, like it's already happened. Time is just catching up. And I know that when I apply that to my life, things start to happen, because it's normalized it. It's a normal thing. So there's zero pedestaling of anything. It's just one with everything. Money, just a transactional commodity. It comes and goes. I'm not pedestaling that thing like it's a hard thing to get. I'll spend it and I'll earn it, and it'll just come out. I'm not letting it control me. I'm not making it a big deal. I'm one with it. It's the same with so many things in my life. And I think I've just applied that, and it's been so powerful. But the so full circle thing is now I'm doing some stuff with Jim, and I was supposed to see him when I was in America, and it's a weird one where he's the guy for me. No one really understands the thing with Jim, but it's so cool, and it's been so awesome to be able to get so many people on his stuff. I've had thousands of people probably go over and listen to Jim and follow him, and from me sharing that message, which is really cool.
I love messages being consistent but spoken in different words. So a message I always say is, literally what you said, act now in the way that your future version acts themselves. And that's why when that comes to self-investment, I always think that, if I want to have a big podcast, what does a big podcast do? Or what does a big podcast need? And people always get scared to spend money or take that risk. It's like, well, yeah, you might be scared to spend the money or take the risk at the rate you're at now. But if that's what it takes to be who you want or have what you want to have, act in that way. Into that camera, what's one piece of advice or a question or an idea or a thought that you want my audience to have?
You should have started yesterday. You've got all the excuses in the world. I know you do. You have all the excuses in the world. There's so many reasons as to why you're not doing the things that you want to do. But I think the awesome part is like you get to do them. And if you don't do them, no one cares. So you may as well do them because you're the one that's going to get to later on in your life and you're going to be living in regret and you're going to be saying, what if, as opposed to, oh, well. And I think when you leave no stone unturned and you do the things that you truly want to do and you actually act on them, just take that one step like you should have yesterday and the day before and the day before, but you still are not doing it because you're scared of all these other things and scared of failure and what other people think, and you have all these excuses. If you actually just start doing the things that you want to do, you will slowly get to where you want to live. So then when you look back at your life, you're proud of what you've done.
Man, sitting back, watching someone else do what I do from a different perspective is really cool. Like, I like teaching people and helping, and to sit back and watch you speak into the camera in the same way I would, or in similar ways I would, it's just really cool. It's really cool. Bro, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. You're gonna kill it. And I think the only thing that's gonna stop you is if you don't be consistent at it. I think if you just keep going, really try and work on getting that content out regularly and making that a focus and leveling up that. And you hit the nail on the head before when you said that like, what do the best podcasters do? And comparing yourself to the people that are bad at a thing or at your level is the worst thing, because, and that's the great thing about social media and podcasting as a whole, is because like people can watch anyone. My favorite frame is like your clientele, your listener is like a lady in her car and she's driving to work and she has 40 minutes and she can put on absolutely anything in the world. Why would she choose yours? Like, make sure the audio is good. Make sure it's it's crisp. Like, make sure you're actually listening to the podcast back so you can improve your speech and get better. And I just think, yeah, you're on the right path, and keep crushing it, dude. And I'm here to help wherever I can. So I appreciate you having me on the show.
Fuck yeah, bro. I appreciate it.